You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back. It is time once again for everyone's favorite. I know it's my favorite. Hopefully it's your favorite. Bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yep, it's time for the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Radio Network. A, make sure you subscribe to the full network, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And B, make sure you're checking out the pro. The optionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more about all the cool stuff that's going on over there. As we learn who's joining us on the old program today, first out to the hinterlands of Chicago, where I do believe he has finally recovered from the once-in-a-lifetime spectacular that was the Mo2 spoiler cast. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show, sir. Have you recovered? Did you enjoy yourself yesterday, sir?
It was a lot of fun. It's good to talk about Masters of the Universe now and then. He-Man, Skeletor, can't beat it.
You know, we all need a little Mo2 in our lives, and I think that was a good refresher for all of us out there. If you missed it, it's on the pro right now. Listener has probably been making his way out to the rest of the network later on, but a good time out there. And then I know he's a closet Mo2 fan. He can't stop talking about it to me behind the scenes. None other than the Flowmaster himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from Cboe, beaming in from parts unknown. Where are you beaming in from today, sir?
I, too, am in the hinterlands of Chicago.
Oh.
I'm actually up at Lake Geneva, Wisconsin for a Cboe management session up here, offsite. We've been digging into kind of everything that's going on in the industry and at Cboe, and we're talking prediction markets, we're talking perpetual futures, we're talking SPX, XSP, retail activity, just lots and lots of things to discuss. And then also, we've got our international partners and staff in from London and other far-flung locations. So it's been great. Although I was just sitting outside hoping to record outside, and there's tornado watches, so yeah, I came inside.
Got some good Midwestern weather coming at you, as we also have the trading block coming at all of us.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for The Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to The Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. And man, there's a lot going on these days. If you can't find something to trade, you are just not paying attention. Of course, we ended the week last week with just a very bloody day in the indices. It seemed like we were going to come in and turn it around earlier this week. Then we started seeing more red start to percolate in again. Of course, we saw a sell-off yesterday. And then coming into today, we started out of the gate kind of hot. S&P rallying, getting back above the 7,300 level, if ever so briefly, right around 7,320 or so in the cash. And then turning right back around, dipping to pretty much unch to slightly down on the day, and now as we kick off the show, back up again, if ever so slightly, up about 0.15%. The NASDAQ, which has been pummeled over pretty much the better part of the last week, gaining back about 1/3% right now, and the Dow up a little over 0.5%. And our old pal VIX Cash kind of all over the place as well today, popping over 22 at one point, not that long before showtime, right around 22.30. And then coming back down to right around 21.5 as we kicked off the show. That puts it up right around 3.5 points from where it was on the Monday show. VVIX feeling frothy, as you might expect, up to about a 110. So again, popping hard, up about 16 points. A lot to unpack here as we seem like we're tilting towards the green again today, but let's wait 5 minutes. It's those kind of markets, listeners. Of course, we're coming off the heels of one of the bigger intraday swings in terms of point totals that we've seen ever, really. In fact, we broke it down from a historical context on Options Bootcamp yesterday. So check out that show if you want to see how this week's massive intraday swing, how it stands up from a historical context. I'll give you a spoiler version. Percentage-wise, it doesn't break into the top 10, but points-wise, now you're talking a top 10 day. And again, these indexes getting kind of lofty, so we're starting to see more of these massive point swings. So a lot to unpack. I'm looking forward to it. Mr. Flowmaster, we will start with you, sir. From the hallowed halls of Lake Geneva. I haven't been out there in a while. Beautiful area out there. What's catching your eye, and what was going through your head, sir, as we saw that top 10 point whipsaw earlier this week, sir?
Well, I believe that got us 108 million contracts in SPX as well. This market has been on a tear, and there's so much going on, right? The SpaceX IPO and these other super mega IPOs that are around the corner. I think everybody's really trying to figure out if this is an opportunity of a lifetime or if this is really kind of something to be very cautious about. We're looking at markets that are still very strong in terms of year-to-date performance, but VIX is hanging around 21. And things have pulled back. With SPX is just up 6% year to date, 6.4, which is still very solid, but we had been up almost 11% at the highs. We're still seeing outperformance of the small caps, outperformance of NASDAQ. But I think the consensus is it's getting a little bit stretched, and valuations are kind of at the upper end, and the AI conversation continues to kind of swing back and forth, and then the geopolitical situation is also very unstable, and we all know that. So, there's just it's just a lot going on. It's great for option volume, though. I believe our running average is around 73.5 million contracts a day right now. So, one of the questions that I asked our derivatives leaders this morning at our conference was when we were going to see a 10 million contract SPX day. Because it is not, it is not impossible to think about. And Megan Dugan mentioned she didn't want to put a date on it, but she said probably next year. So I think we could see it sooner, but I'm an optimist. But it's a busy day again. Tonight is when the SpaceX IPO prices. It'll start trading tomorrow, and then we will have options on it next Tuesday. But as things stand right now, we're actually, relatively kind of flat with some decent rebound in the tech names. Oil's a little changed, and everybody's just kind of trying to figure out. Things have actually heated up on the military side at the same time that we keep getting told that an agreement is around the corner. So I think you have a lot of angst, and that was kind of how I explained last Friday when we had that the big sell off, 200 almost 4% in NDX. People are sitting on a lot of profits, and and knowing that there's so much headline risk and so much just differing opinions in terms of kind of the health of the market and the health of the economy and where interest rates are going to go, you have a lot of people kind of poised to move. I think it'll be really interesting to see how SpaceX goes. And what's also really kind of wild, and I was talking to some colleagues about it, you can actually see where some of the SpaceX perp futures are trading. So it's not actually a mystery where that stock's going to be because it's already tradable in some form on Hyperliquid specifically. It's looking like I believe the IPO price is around 135. It's looking around 160 last I checked. But, so it's just, it feels like the market's getting a little tired and people are a little nervous. But at the same time, they were also very, very nervous about sitting out, some sort of a 2 or 3% up day. So that's where we end up. We end up with some decent volatility. VIX at 21 tells you that, we're going to be seeing moves well over 1%, basically kind of half the time.
Just think about that sentence you just said out loud. SpaceX perps pricing. I mean, just everything about that sentence is insane. If you had said that just a year or two ago, everyone would have looked at you like a crazy person. Most people in the derivative space until really this year weren't that accepting of perpetuals. They thought that was the domain of crypto madmen. And now here we are using them to price what might be, depending on your point of view, you're right, the biggest IPO ever, the buy of a century or the end of Western civilization as we know it. Exchanges, index providers changing all their rules just to coddle to an enormous IPO and get some of that business. So there's a lot of heat on both sides of this SpaceX thing. Either way, it is translating into a lot of volume. I mean, a couple of million shares changing hands or contracts changing hands in SPY just as we've been talking. So a lot of action out there. But before we get there, let's go to the biggest SpaceX perps watcher that I know, known as Uncle Mike. Uncle Mike, put down your SpaceX perps for a few minutes and tell us, first off, what was going through your head as we had that massive intraday whipsaw earlier this week. I think it was 245 handles, somewhere in that ballpark. And then B, what's catching your eye today, sir?
Yeah, Tuesday was interesting. What went through my head, and I almost hate to say it, this is going to make me, it's going to just sound like madness to people, but maybe this is our pullback that we need to get in, because we're literally on Tuesday when we had that big sell-off, we got to almost exactly, but the low was 72.37 in the SPX. And that's within 1 point of almost an exact 5% pullback from the all-time high that we made back on June 2nd, literally 1 week later. So I hate to say it, but maybe that was our buying opportunity, and maybe we're just kind of puttering around a little bit. We're building some support, and maybe we're going to go up again. We're going to be up 30%.
Spoken like the perma bull that you are, sir.
Yes. So that's what went through. That's kind of what's going through my head as I'm looking at this. But maybe we're just on shaky ground, and then we're going to be at 5,900 here in another couple of weeks. Who knows? But yeah, I think that the market's kind of taking a breath right now because of the fact that we have had the sell-off that we've had over the course of the last, 9 days, 9 calendar days, I should say, or since June 2nd when we've had the big day. So we've had one up day that was on June 4th, the Thursday. But other than that, we have just been down every day. And so we're about even right now, of course. But at some stage, I think buyers are going to come in. And with just as rapid as this market has been going lately, the fact that we've had a 9-day 5% pullback, or if anything, a 1 week 5% pullback, and then we're kind of somewhat stabilizing today. Maybe this is our chance to get back in. Who knows? But with that being said, some other things with which I'm just keeping an eye on at this stage. Apple continues to stay. Apple had a part in the market's coming down as it had. Apple was at 310 recently. Now it's back down to 290. It hit the 280s even, but we're back in the low 290s. So Apple's pulled back a little bit. As we're looking at this, a couple other stocks that are standing out as lighting up my tape, if you will. IBM pulled back fairly significantly. Big Blue, I mean, today, of course, it's relatively flat. Some other things that are catching my eye, at least for the time being, the flatness of Nvidia is catching my eye. It's back below 200 today. It's only down 58 cents, which that's really not a big deal for Nvidia a lot of times. So it's not as if there's a big mover catching my eye, if you will. It's the fact that Nvidia, Palantir, they're not really moving that much today. AMD is only up 1.4% on the day, so that's a surprise flat move in a lot of ways. So we're really fairly flat right now, and I think that's something with which to continue to take note of. And then just the final update that I got to say it on the year to support my website, because I actually got my renewal notice for my website, which of course is bitcoinreallysucks.com, but Bitcoin's still doing really bad this year. Just wanted to mention that.
I do love that you spend actual real dollars just to rub it in the face of Bitcoin hodlers out there everywhere. We should bring you on the crypto show one of these days, Uncle Mike. I'm sure you'd be welcomed with open arms in that community. What do you think, sir? Should we try it?
I'm afraid I'd get too many death threats on the show. I don't know. I imagine I'm like the Iron Sheik and Skeletor of that show.
Yeah, you might be a little bit of Iron Sheik and or Nikolai Volkov, whereas I, of course, would be our big fan of the network, Sergeant Slaughter, one of our many followers out there. So, yes, that would be a good one.
Well, you're Gene Okerlund. You'd be Gene Okerlund. That's kind of your role.
In this scenario, I would definitely be Sarge. I'd be standing up for the folks and for the red, white, and blue, sir. But I digress. Let's go out to the markets, listeners. I am not lying. Sarge, a fan of the network. All right, let's keep rolling out to the markets out there. Are things spicy? Are things action-packed out there? You know, all it takes is a little bit of whipsaw action, usually to drum up a little bit of paper out there. And we are pretty much seeing that right now. These markets struggling to find their direction today, but that's leading to some flow. VIX looking decent, 355,000 contracts on the tape right now. That's against an ADV that continues to climb, 804. So it's not usually the direction we see the VIX ADV moving heading into the start of summer. But then, again, this is not a usual summer. There's a lot going on the markets. There's a lot going on geopolitically. So all that translating into a little bit more flow out there, 804. And almost halfway to that ADV today, the hot option in VIX land today. We got our old pals, the June 25s, 28,000 of those bad boys changing hands today. Let's do a quick top five in VIX land, because why not? Number 2, 15,000 of the June 35s. Number 3, 13,000 of the June 23s. Got a nice little June call strip here. Number 4, 11,000 of the June 20 halves. We don't talk the half strikes very often, but there we go. And number 5, 11,000 as well of the June 18 puts. So maybe we got a little bit of a tight risk reversal going up there. What isn't tight, though, today is SPY volume. SPY putting up the numbers. As I mentioned, over 2 million contracts changing hands in SPY pretty much since we started talking. So SPY looking juicy, SPY looking frothy today. Nearly, actually, I just re-racked it just to make sure. And we have crossed the 9 million contract threshold. Almost 9.2 million contracts on the tape in SPY already. That is wild. That is a day's worth of flow and a lot of quiet days, if not more than a day's worth of flow. The ADV has grown a little bit, obviously, 11.4 million. And could even, at this pace, we could hit that by the end of the show. So pretty wild day out here in SPY. Is the S following suit, listeners? Are we seeing a banger day out here in good old SPX? The answer is yeah, it looking pretty decent. Almost 3 million contracts right now, 2.95 million. That sounds even better when you hear the ADV is a little bit north of 5. So obviously well north of halfway to their ADV as well. And yeah, talking about maybe in the future, next year, a 10 million contract SPX day. We shall see. It'll be a wild day out there, that's for sure. Where it is a wild day right now is in small caps. IWM almost 1.5 million. It was 1.41. In fact, let's just re-rack it right now. Let's get all up to the minute numbers, listeners. 1.45, almost 1.5 million contracts. If that sounds like a lot, that's because it is. The ADV is only 1.9 million. So again, small caps can be there by the end of the show as well. They're up about 1% today. So again, just another wild day in small caps. If you want to hear more about small caps, stay tuned. I will be joined by the folks from FTSE Russell coming up a little bit later on TWIFO. It is recon time, listeners. A lot to talk about out there in the world of small caps, and we shall do so coming up on TWIFO. If you're wondering, we've said it many times on this show, IWM seems to vacillate between 0-day calls and about 1 month to 2 month puts in terms of the top most active contracts. Today, we're hanging out on the 0-day call side, listeners. It's the 287s. By the way, as of a few minutes ago, IWM was right about 285, so a couple of dollar out of the money calls going up about almost 100,000 times for prices around 77 cents. Seems like paper might be overwriting the bulk of those, but we shall keep an eye on that and see. Speaking of keeping an eye on things, man, NASDAQ, I said it at the top of the show, NASDAQ has been shellacked of late, and that is certainly driving some flow out there these days. Already today, listeners, nearly 6 million contracts on the tape, 5.8 million contract. That is more than a day's worth of flow not that long ago. The ADV was sub 6 million not too long ago. The ADV now 7.33 million. So the Q is making up for lost time and over delivering in terms of volume. Absolutely wild stuff out here. Now, sometimes when the indexes are super hot and super spicy, sometimes the single name equity options can be the land that time forgot, listeners. And it appears that is the case again today. It's not sleepy by any means. 356,000 contracts is what it cost you to break into the top 10. That is the literal definition of respectability, at least on this show. But it's not 450, which is a certified banger. It's not 550, which is explosive. It's not the nearly 600,000 contracts we saw on this show just a week and change ago to break into the top 10. That was the most active we've pretty much ever seen it on the top 10 on our list on this show. So wild stuff out there. Not quite there, but a respectable day nonetheless. Number 10 gets you to our old pal, the artist formerly known as Facebook. Yeah, it's Meta. This name's been vacillating around this 600 level forever. Lately, it's been retreating away from it, and it is continuing that retreat today off another 11.5 handles, or pretty much exactly 2%, hanging out a little bit shy of 560 out there. So at least for right now, it seems like the 600 strike is a distant memory. What's a distant memory, at least for today, is the 900 strike in Micron, blowing past it to the upside, up 26 handles or nearly 3%, right around 918 right now in Micron. If you've been paying attention to our hot options report, the flow out here has been absolutely wild. We've seen a ton of flow still on those pars. The 1,000 calls, they were trading for absurd levels just earlier this week. It seemed like the 1,000 strike was a distant memory yesterday, but here we are back above 900. If any name can get to 1,000 by tomorrow's close, it is certainly Micron. So this name is just insane right now. Good for number 9, 364 on the tape. If you want to have some action, if you're bored in your trading, you can't find excitement in these markets somehow, a 250 intraday swing in the S isn't doing it for you, then how about, Micron? You're not going to be bored there, I guarantee you. All right, number 8, listeners, it's the Amazonians. 236, pretty much even, off about $2 today. Good for number 8. 392 on the tape. By the way, Micron has put up 364,000 contracts already today. Number 7, our old pal Alphabet Class A. They just ticked up a little bit. Looks like they were down to about 346 and change and now have turned up, as we've been talking, up to 347.90, still off $8.50, so they're getting shellacked today, but maybe starting to claw their way back. They have put up 420,000 contracts for the number 7 spot. Number 6, Mr. Softy, Uncle Mike's favorite holding outside of Palantir. 385, pretty much even right now, off over $12, 12.25. So they continue to come for Microsoft, just as Meta is to the 600 strike. Microsoft is to the 400 strike. They keep trying to get there. They get above it. Something comes along to clip their wings, and it seems like that is the case again today. Number 6, Microsoft, 517 on the tape. Number 5, it's Oracle. Man, they were not liking this one. This is another name that's talking about selling more shares to the public. That's usually going to weigh on your stock. Excuse me, and that's pretty much what's happening again. We heard Alphabet talking about this. All these companies, Meta, they are spending too much. They literally don't have the capital for it, and they have more money than any other companies in the history of time, and yet it's not sufficient for the AI spending needs, listeners. That does tend to spook some people. Oracle obviously doing that as well. We were talking about, I believe it was 250s, maybe 260s. I'll have to go look at the exact strike. One of those two on the hot options report yesterday. For a sizable amount of cash, well over $2, that money seems like it is certainly dead out there today. So again, you roll those bones, it's easy to get burnt, and looks like that is the case in Oracle today. Off $24, trading 178.5. They're off nearly 12% again today. Oracle, kind of the poster child these days for getting clipped post earnings. Number 4, we've got Apple. This is a poster child for getting clipped post WWDC. I've said it many times. Apple is a almost textbook example of buy the rumor, sell the fact. And they did that pretty hard post WWDC. Apparently, Apple did not say the magical letters of AI in quite the right way for the street. They didn't like what they heard. Starting to climb back a little bit today, though, up $5 or about 1.75%, trading 296.63. Good for 628 on the tape today. Number 3, it's Intel. Man, just when you thought this name was kind of writing it off, going to drift back below the par strike, they're back up another nearly $4 today. Actually, leave it to Intel. They just ticked again while we're talking. Not more than $4. They're up 6.75 now, or 6.25%, trading 113.75. So something happening out there over the last few minutes, listeners, to turn a lot of these names. All of a sudden, like we mentioned, Meta popping a little bit, the Micron popping, looks like about $3 and change out there just in the last few minutes. So something turning the warm out there. I guess Uncle Mike is doing a lot of buying out there right now. Number 2, let's go out to Tesla. They're popping slightly today, up 2.25, trading 383.81. They've had a hard time maintaining that 400 level as well. They have 1.17 million contracts on the tape, and the big dog, such as it is on a kind of light day so far, it's Nvidia. Nvidia 1.5 million. This is another one that's turned around aggressively, pretty much just as I started doing the top 10, listeners. All these names have bounced appreciably. Nvidia has gone from sub $200 to almost 202 right now, 201.98. So they have popped a couple of bucks just since we started talking. That puts them up $1.50 right now, putting 1.5 million contracts. I'm not sure what has happened in the last few minutes outside of more buyers and sellers, but we shall find out in a few minutes. Really quickly, let's go out to earnings. There were still some names popping off this week. Cracker Barrel putting up a decent number, so their stock got a nice little lift. On Tuesday, we also had, as I mentioned, Oracle last night after the bell. That one, you know how it worked out. And then we've got Adobe after the bell and Leonard Holmes after the bell today as well. So if you still like a little bit of earnings action, there is, I should say, still some for you out there. If you want to check out all the charts, all the data, you know where to go, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab to begin your journey to the dark side. It is now time for us to continue our journey into the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the odd block.
All right, Mr. Flowmaster, while I go take a look and see what Uncle Mike's been buying to drive up this market in the last few minutes. Obviously, all eyes are glued to the upcoming IPO, aka SpaceX. Like I said at the top of the show, either you think this is the greatest thing in the history of markets, or perhaps the worst thing in all markets. We're going to try to take your pulse again. Twitter polls have been notoriously unreliable of late, but we're saying pretty much this upcoming SpaceX IPO seems to be very much dividing traders. Some view it as the buying opportunity of a lifetime. Others see it as the ultimate symbol of a bloated tech market and the final nail in the coffin of the rally. Where do you fall? Are you going to buy this bad boy? Is it the buy of a lifetime? Is it the beginning of the end? Or you just don't give two F's about SpaceX? Get over there at options. We'll see if we can actually drum up some votes or if Twitter is still broken by the end of the show. But Mr. Flowmaster, you have some thoughts on all things SpaceX, sir. What's catching your eye?
So we've been talking about SpaceX. It's highly anticipated, of course, and for a lot of reasons. Everything from the fact that it's Elon's baby down to what everybody's saying about kind of who's going to be buying this stuff. The last headlines I saw, show that it was very oversubscribed. And as I said, you can see on the perps futures market trading around 165-ish. But what's really interesting about that is I went back and looked at when Meta was the busiest IPO option launch, meaning options launched shortly after a big IPO like this. That was in 2012, about 370,000 contracts traded the first day, which does not sound like much, considering we see Tesla and Nvidia hit 3 or 4 million contracts a day often now. But that was about 2.5% of the market. So at the time, and today that would be around 2 million contracts. So we could see two. I would expect us to see between like 2 and maybe even 3.5 million contracts. The other thing I want to point out is Meta was at $25. Well, the ticker was Facebook back then, but it was $25 stock then. So, and I believe we were kind of having the same conversations, which is this is an unprofitable company, and we're not quite sure what the business model is. And you can say the same things about SpaceX, but so it's a wild one. I didn't complete my project, but I was going to try to use Claude Code to estimate the realized volatility from the perp, which is definitely doable, just to kind of come up with a pretty good estimate on what kind of implied vol we should expect to see on this, because it has been some facsimile of it has been available to trade for a few weeks. So it's definitely interesting times, and you said it, Mark. It's like if we were, this is a foreign language to ourselves from a year ago. It's all new territory, and it's fun to be involved. So certainly, actually, I just found out I'm going to go on Bloomberg Radio in the morning on Wednesday, following that first day of SpaceX options trading. So I'll be keeping a very close eye on it as things unfold.
Are you cheating on me with those Bloomberg Radio bastards? How dare you, sir? How dare you? But I digress. Yes, it will be. I've often said many times, at the end of the day, you don't need to believe in an underlying to trade options on it. You just need volume and volatility. And I think we will certainly have both of those post SpaceX IPO. So should be something interesting indeed out there, listeners. We will know for certain in a couple of days as we keep on rolling out to some of our other hot, fun names out here. Let's see. What did the Flowmaster spot out here today from his cozy confines in Lake Geneva? Oh, are we going back out to your old favorite? This is Unity Group, ticker symbol UNIT, UNIT, trading 12.25, up 5.5%, or about 63 cents today. On the year, it's been a banger, up pretty much $8 exactly, or 191%. And yeah, this one has been mostly straight up. They haven't really paused for breath at all. So it's been a heck of a year out here in all things Unity. I'm thinking of the Unity like the engine, but this is Unity Group. This is a REIT. So I'm not sure if we have talked about this one before. I'll have to go dig in and see if I can find the ticker, sir. But in the meantime, Mr. Flowmaster, what did you spot out here in perhaps our new favorite REIT, Unity?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's kind of nice and simple. So what we see right now is almost 3,900 calls have traded today versus 39 puts. So that gives you a nice round call put of 100 to 1, and that's definitely heavy volume. The average daily call volume in this name is only 1,000 contracts. So 3 times the total daily volume, and because it's not even it's about midday, really 5 times the expected volume at this point. and it's all in one. It's all in one strike. It's all the July 13 calls. So 3,700 of those have traded. Data shows the buyer basically paying between like 50 and 52 cents. And I do have a little bit of that open close data, which actually shows me which Cboe sells, and it discloses the entity type, and it's actually a customer. It's a firm buyer and a firm seller. So this is not your usual kind of, maybe some sort of funky fast money hedge fund buying from market makers in big sweeps. They did do a couple of chopped up trades, but this one, it is an opening buyer initiating it. And I can tell that actually because there's a few market makers on the sell side, but mostly it's firm to firm. We see that sometimes when there's some sort of OTC or structured trade upstairs. But it's one I haven't seen. It's not, and sometimes these REITs, I don't know this stock, but in my world it shows up as telco. So possibly it's in the I'm not sure what their true business activity is, but I would keep an eye on it. Just to stocks range from 4 to 12, and this is a 13 strike call buyer. So maybe they have an inkling of what could be in the future for the stock.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I was initially thinking of your favorite from last year, Mr. Flowmaster, which is Unity Software, which is ticker symbol UU, which you talked about quite a bit last year. It's been a little while since we checked on that one, though, since I think July of last year, sometime in that time frame. We're overdue for a Unity check-in, and instead we got the REIT today, listeners. So throwing you a bit of a curveball out. Just when you think you have the Flowmaster peg, he throws you a curveball out there as we keep rolling out to some other interesting trading out here. Mr. Flowmaster coming armed with some newcomers. So he's not just hanging out by the pool and the lake in Lake Geneva, listeners. He's actually doing his homework. Coming today with LifeZone Metals Limited, ticker symbol LZM. This is another newcomer out here, obviously a metals name. Which metals? I don't know. Let's find out, listeners. Trading $3.87, up about 17 cents today, or about 4.5%. So a good day for LifeZone Metals. This chart, though, looking pretty topsy-turvy, which, again, the metals market has been pretty fraught with peril over the past year, but they are still mostly to the upside. This name right now has actually just tilted to the red. They're off about 41 cents now, or almost 10% for the year. They did top out a couple of times. It looks like around a little bit north of $6, between 6 and 6.5. They kissed that level back in October, and then again in January, and then again not that long ago in May. So they flirted with a little bit north of 6 a couple of times before just giving up the ghost entirely. Worth noting, though, they did sell off in the big early to mid-March sell-off with the rest of the market down to almost exactly $3, 3.07. So they have rallied over 80 cents from that low, but they have also just recently kissed $6 again and getting clipped again. So this name very range bound. Maybe that attracts you out there. Looks like they are active in nickel sulfide. So there you go, listeners. All the hot stuff of nickel sulfide. Mr. Flowmaster, what did you spot in our new favorite metals name, LifeZone Metals, sir?
Well, yeah, this one. You and I both noticed this kind of separately, which that means we've got two brains on it. And it's a nice simple one. It is a buyer of 7,500 of the Augie 5 calls on the Cboe. They paid 37 cents. That's when the stock was 384, just after 11:21 a.m. New York time. So 5 strike calls. They got some time for this trade to work. And I looked at the chart too, and it is choppy and a little bit ugly. But because they are in the metals related to battery creation, they certainly could be a name that kind of picks up some steam for sure. I don't see anything funky in the borrow. Looks like it. The options are not the most liquid things out there. It's basically slightly difficult to borrow based on an indicative rate of around 85 basis points. Meaning, if you want to short it, you do pay a little bit more than you would pay to short something that's easy to get hold of, like Apple or Tesla or something. So I don't know. I mean, it's a cheap stock, so the Viceroy would say maybe just buy the stock for $4 or something in there, and kind of hold on to it for a bit. But this is somebody putting out it's a pretty big position. I mean, the total open interest in LifeZone is only 4,000 calls to begin with, and they're kind of spread around the 5 strike and the 7 strike. So this one, somebody seems to be looking for an upside. I mean, it's 50 times the average daily option volume, and it's all basically in one trade. And they got a pretty decent execution too, based on the Cboe Theo value, which was around 32 cents. They paid 37 for a trade that's so much bigger than the average volume. So this is kind of interesting one. I have not taken a position in the name, but I might put a little bit of money into it just to keep things interesting.
I will say, knowing nothing about this name other than looking at this chart for 2 minutes, if there is a time to buy calls, it is when it's dipping down to around the $3 level or so. We're in this range because this stock has kissed $6 about 4 times over the past year. So if you could scoop these and hopefully you get that next leg up before August expiration, and you're looking pretty good. You get the heck out of Dodge. You're right. It isn't cheap. 106 vol. So that is the off-putting element of that. Maybe you do want to go the stock when it's that rich. But again, kind of an interesting one. Maybe definitely one to keep an eye on out here. And you know what? I always like keeping an eye on what the listeners have in store for us. Let's get there now. A little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, listeners, I was hoping to give you an update on our SpaceX IPO poll, but, the one thing I could guarantee about a poll about SpaceX is that it is not going to generate no interest. And yet there are 0 votes, according to Twitter, in this poll right now. That obviously these polls are still having issues here. I'm not sure what it is. It seemed like they broke something a few months ago and they have yet to correct it. So if you're missing our questions of the week, we miss them too. It was fun to do. Twitter was the obvious place to do them because so many of you are hanging out there and following us on Twitter. But maybe we'll have to find an alternative way to do these because this functionality right now, for whatever reason, maybe I know Twitter likes to lock things behind a paywall. We do pay for premium, so maybe there's an extra tier to get the polls working again. I don't know, but it is a shame that we can't get your pulse on the, depending on what you feel, the buy of a lifetime or the absolute nadir for capital markets as we know it. But let's go out to the live chat because Mr. Flowmaster, we have a question coming in here, which is kind of interesting, obviously very timely. Everyone's got their eyes focused on the launch, not of the IPO, but of the listing of the options on SpaceX. You already gave us your thoughts on how you think it's going to shape up. But we have this question. We've been getting variations on this for the last couple of weeks. It obviously makes sense given where we are right now in the markets and what's about to happen. Nichols wants to know, it seems like it would pay to sell vol after hot IPOs list their options. Does the historical data from the Flowmaster bear that out? Yeah, we have been hearing a lot of people coming on the network lately, Mr. Flowmaster, and saying, regardless of where SpaceX finally starts trading, when the options list, they are going to lean towards the dark side. Obviously, we're not talking to us. You're crunching a lot of data out there. Does your historical data on big hot IPOs, does it bear that out, sir?
So I have not tested that theory. There's a couple of things that occur to me though. One is this is a perfect question to ask, one of the built-in AI backtesting platforms that some of these brokerages have released, because you basically can kind of say, just go figure out every API in the first day of options trading, and it's kind of messy to do manually. For Meta specifically, it took me a few rounds. I would also say though that the market, the liquidity providers that kind of set the first quotes and basically do have to pick, okay, well, what's volatility going to be? They're probably going to err a little bit high rather than low for a couple of reasons. One is the potential for losses. You're a little bit vol can go up to, hundreds, right? It can only go down to 0. And if you kind of look at the realized vol, it gives you a bit of a lower bound. So I would expect that maybe vol would start out a little high, especially because you also, especially in a high profile IPO, you're going to have a lot of retail involved, and retail does tend to buy options more than they sell them. So that also is going to kind of bid up the vol. So I think it's a good theory. I don't think I think you'd have to have some pretty strong will to short some volatility in SpaceX on day one, just because of the fact that there's some scenarios think the stock could double. I know within Cboe we're listing. They were still talking about what strikes are going to get listed yesterday. I do know for sure we're going to have it starts on Tuesday, and you're not eligible to list the weekly options quite yet, or the Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. That's going to take a little while. But the first expiration available will actually be the June 18th. So there will be 2-day options. It lists on a Tuesday, and there will be Thursday expiration because Friday is the Juneteenth holiday. So there will be some pretty short-dated options. And then I believe the next expiration available will be July, and then a few days later you'll start to see the shorter terms fill in. So I think it will be exciting, and I think if anybody that really is a lifelong option trader and really loves this product, you kind of want to say you traded a couple of SpaceX options on day one, because years down the road, but all indications make it seem like this name's going to be just as hot as Tesla, and Nvidia, and Meta, at least for options trading. So you'll have some bragging rights if you can do one of the first trades in SpaceX options. But as always, first of all, I'm not giving any advice, and second of all, be very careful. Pick something that is your style and has some defined risk, because you never know what's going to happen out there.
Interesting. 2 days of short premium. Can you handle it next week, listeners? Is that too wild for you? Hit us up, let us know as we keep going around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block. And I was not imagining things before. It looks like Trump said he just canceled the strikes on Iran, so that is what turned the markets around pretty much on a dime. It is interesting for markets that seem to have pretty much washed their hands of anything geopolitical ever since the ceasefire, that have done naught but rally. They have definitely been impacted by it a little bit over the last few sessions, and then shrugging it all off again today. Now we are up fully 1%, the S&P 1.2%, NASDAQ 1.6%, Dow up 1.6%, and the VIX back to a 20 handle. We were 21.5 when we kicked off the show, so that's down 1.5 points. So I guess you could say it, the regularly scheduled, we see a few days of red and turbulence. Something conciliatory tends to come out of DC after that, and we are seeing that right now. I also saw some analysis recently that they have said a deal is close, I think 37 times over the past few months since the ceasefire started. So it is a case of we'll have to wait and see what we actually get. But the markets, once again, reacting like this is a done deal. We shall see out there. But Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, I can see your buying arm has been very busy since we last chatted with you. I hope you got some breath left to talk to us. What are your thoughts on this worm turning, and what are you keeping an eye on till the Monday show?
I mean, I think we need to continue to watch, of course, the markets. Henry made me think of something in terms of the SpaceX IPO. It made me think of growing up in Chicago. I was not a White Sox fan. I was a Cubs fan, or growing up in the Chicago area, I should say. But I remember in 1990, the tagline for Comiskey Park, the last season in historic Comiskey Park. Years from now, you'll say you were there. So, Henry, you're making me feel inspired to want to buy some of these SpaceX options in some way, shape, or form. So I got to do something with it now, because the fact that I can honestly say I was at the last ever Friday afternoon game in historic Comiskey Park in 1990, I need to add some type of a useless fact to my repertoire, and the SpaceX options could be the opportunity for me to do that.
What are you hearing from the clients over there at MTM? Are they in on this? Do they want a part of it? Are they not touching it? What's going on over there? Or not MTM.
I've gotten some inquiries on it, but for the most part, there's definitely some interest in it, but in the discretionary accounts, I'm staying away from it.
Interesting. And you're right. There is something to that historic level. When Cboe finally listed options, there was just something very meta about trading options on the Cboe. So I had to get in there on day one. I don't think I was the first contract. I'm sure the Flowmaster probably beat me to that. But I was very early on day one trading Cboe options, again, just to say I did it, because there is something very meta about that. And there perhaps is an argument to that for SpaceX as well. Mr. Flowmaster, what are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next Thursday, when we'll have some more data on all things SpaceX, sir?
We will, and I'll be able to tell you if I was one of the first trades in there. I mean, today's the perfect example. The headline risk, the geopolitical posturing, I guess you'd call it. Things are whipping around. So it's a great trading environment, but you also have to be very kind of conscious of, don't get too comfortable, because things will change on you. And just like the weather in Wisconsin, it did start pouring when I was after I came inside. So we'll be watching SpaceX. We'll be watching geopolitics, and I think we have our Oracle earnings or something.
We just had those last night.
Okay, gotcha. Then nothing. Micron's next week. Micron's later this month. So I guess we're kind of in the earnings lull, and VIX is a little bit jacked up, but we're still over 20 at 19.9 right now. So that means we're going to keep seeing some whippy days. It also, I like the sweet spot for VIX actually to be kind of in that 17 to 25 zone. Over 25, I think people are really get kind of scared, and VIX around 14, 15, kind of hard to sell much premium, because there's a potential for things to get much higher. So that'll be it. It's gonna be an active week, that's for sure.
Yes, the take your ball and go home level of VIX, a hotly debated level. Some folks think it's 30, some folks think it's 35. Mr. Flowmaster thinks it's 25. We'll have to talk about that on Vol Views perhaps this week. But that music means we are done with the old OB, but of course not done on the network, not by a long shot, listeners. We'll be back. If you like this equities talk, we'll be back in a little bit to talk all things small caps with the folks from FTSE Russell. Should be a good time coming up on TWIFO. And then, of course, after the closing bell, we'll break down yet another wild day in the world of options on the Hot Options Report. A lot of great stuff to be found there. But before we do that, around the horn we go. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if folks want to call you up and debate all things SpaceX or Bitcoin with you, where should they go? What should they do? Or perhaps talk Motu.
stcharleswealth.com. Book an appointment with me. Always happy to talk to any of our listeners on any subject, financial or Motu for that matter. I would love to have a conversation with any of our listeners. Check it out.
I hope some of your clients start hitting you up with Motu calls. I think that'd be a fun time for all involved, sir.
I would absolutely love it, quite honestly.
The phone rings, the market's melting down. You think, oh, here comes the client. They're angry, and they say, Uncle Mike, what did you think about this particular episode of Motu? You'd be like, exactly. You would be a happy camper. Make his day, listeners. stcharleswealth.com is the place to go to do just that. And Mr. Flowmaster, there's a lot of need for some good options analytics out there right now. If folks want to kick the tires on some cool stuff, where should they go? What should they do?
We'll just head over to Cboe.com. That's our general website. And actually, one thing I'd point out is we have the XSP Binary Options starting next week as well. So besides SpaceX options, which will be listed on Cboe as well as the other exchanges, XSP, which is the mini SPX, we're going to have binary contracts. XSP BW is the ticker, and I will try to be one of the first trades in those as well. And Cboe.com/RMA is our risk and market analytics. That is the place to go to check out our data sets, check out our platforms, request a trial, try the best tools you can get a hold of.
I forgot those are coming as well. It's all been lost in the SpaceX noise. But yes, the binaries coming soon too. If you want a nice binary on the old XSP, next week is your Huckleberry. Check it out over there. It's all there, listeners. Cboe.com to learn more. That's going to do it for us on the old OB. Back again in a little bit for TWIFO. Back again, of course, after the closing bell for the Hot Options Report. Then we're back again tomorrow on Volatility Views. who's going to join us on the show tomorrow? We got to tune in to find out. And then, of course, after the closing bell, we have the Hot Options Report. And in between there, we have a little fun thing called Options Oddities. Check out the Pro if you want to join us on that. A lot of crazy trades have been going up in that. Free calendars for days. It's been wild. Check it out, theoptionsinsider.com/pro if you want to learn more. Then we're back again on Monday. We'll see what's going on with all this SpaceX madness on the next episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.